Hey everyone, it's Bethany from Beth in Books and welcome back to this book nook. Look, first things first, I'm so sorry for swapping and changing with the name of this channel. I've decided to stay. I tried to do something new going to Bethany and Garrett, but look, it just didn't sit right. And when I asked you guys over on my Instagram, you also suggested going back to Beth and Books because it was just more me. Books are always going to be the main focus of this channel and over on my Instagram. And then, you know, just life happens around that. So I promise this is the final time I'm going back on my name. Beth in Books for life. Anyway, welcome. Today I'm coming at you with my first recent reads wrap-up of 2021. And yes, it's coming in mid-March. This year I have not read the most books. I just was in a massive slump all through February and the first few weeks of March, and only recently have I started to really get back in the groove of things. There could be multiple reasons for the slump, but you know what? It's in the past. We're moving on. Things are getting better. So with that being said, I'm going to share with you, hang on, maths, how many? 14 recent reads. So I'll go through those as quickly as possible. Before I get into those, however, please consider leaving a cheeky like and subscribe down below. The goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So I would really appreciate, just clicking that button. You're already here, so what's the harm? And so I'm going to stop yabbering. On with the video. Also, yes, I have a massive pimple. I found a really good cookie recipe and then ate all the cookies. Alright, so the first book I read in 2021 is 0.75 of the Witcher series. Can't say much without spoiling it. It's an anthology. If you've seen season 1 of The Witcher on Netflix, this also encompasses that season. So season 1 covers 0.5 and 0.75 of the book series. If you're curious, really loved it. Geralt is such a funny, sassy, hardcore character, and it also doesn't hurt that in my mind I picture Henry Cavill in tight leather trousers and like bare chested, so that's always a good time. I did give it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's such a quick read. The fact that it's an anthology means that I feel like you're never bored. It's always kind of jumping from one thing to the next, and then the different timelines always keeps you sucked in. I may as well go from there to the second book that I've read in this wrap-up, although I only finished this one a week ago, and it's book 1 in the series. So technically like book 3 in the entire series, but book 1 in the main story. And I didn't like this one as much, guys. I gave this one 3 stars. I just missed Geralt's sassiness. I thought that there wasn't much action. It's more like the setup for something massive. It gave me Lord of the Ring vibes in how there's a lot of description. However, trade description out for conversation. Do you get what I mean? Like there's almost too much. No hate to the Lord of the Rings fans. But this just wasn't it for me. I'm really hoping though that the rest of the series, which I do have up here and I will finish reading, I just hope that the rest of them have more action, and this was very much just a setup build up for the rest of that story. Next up, I read Shine Until Tomorrow, and this one I was ever so nicely gifted a signed copy from Carla Meldon. Oh, that's not the sign. From Carla Meldon and her team. There we go. And I actually had a chance to give away 2 of these books over on my Instagram, which was fun. Personally though, it's okay, but let's just say I'm putting this in my to donate/to sell for cheap pile. I'll leave the Trade Me link down below in case any of you guys are Kiwis. I'm slowly listing books that I no longer want on my shelf that you've already seen an unhaul video of. Plus I'm planning on doing a massive unhaul because I just need that in my life. I think it's very much one of those books where it's got a specific audience, in this case the 60s music scene. I'm almost certain that a lot of the references, like 50% of the references, I didn't understand because I'm not very knowledgeable about that time in our history, specifically the music scene in that time of our history. So just something to be aware of. So the next two books that I'm going to mention, I'll only do it briefly because I've got a whole video dedicated to them, and that is from Blood and Ash and Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. I'm pretty sure those are the names. I loved both of them. They're both 5-star reads. They're both gripping sort of stories full of fantasy, romance, angst. And look, they're big, but I finished both of them within 2 days. It was one of those situations where I could not put it down. Granted though, I did read it on my tablet, which I think helped me keep flipping the pages, because if I had a thick chunky book, I wouldn't have, I think I would have been a bit more overwhelmed. It'd be a bit more of a daunting experience. From here, I read these 3 books from J.D. Robb's, aka Nora Roberts' In Death series. So some context, after reading the Kingdom of Flesh and Fire book, because obviously I did a lot of reading within a couple of days, I kind of took a step back and then was finding it hard to get back into, and this is where my slump started. I'm not saying the previous 2 books caused a reading slump, but I just didn't know what book I wanted to read from there, and I couldn't get into any that I had in my read me basket. Not this read me basket, the one from a couple of months ago. So I went back to my old faithful, which is this series, and I just started again. I found them all for free PDFs in Google. Just Google it, PDFs, J.D. Robb In Death series, free PDFs, and there's heaps out there. It just follows our main character, who is a female detective called Eve Dallas. She meets a guy, and every book is almost its own standalone. There are some references to previous books, but if you just were to pick a random one, you'd probably still understand what's going on, because each book has its own individual, like, detective murder case going on with it. Either way, they're always cover to cover reads for me. Each of them is 5 stars, and look. So from those 3 books, I obviously had like a good experience with romance. So I went and reached for the Quotient, this one. I did get it out of the library, so it's been since returned. And again, another lovely romance, and I really fell for it a lot more than I thought I was going to do. The fact that we were just thrown straight into it from chapter 1, respect. It's like the author was like, look, people are here for the relationship. We don't need all of that like slow burn stuff, which normally I really enjoy. This was just very much more like, this is happening. So it was a 5-star read for me. I also really enjoyed the representation of Aspergers in this from our main character and one of the side characters' brothers, who I believe becomes the main character in the second book in the series. I can't comment on if it was realistic, because nor do I or any of my close friends and family have Aspergers, but I just think it felt like a nice representation, and it definitely hammered home this idea, just because you have Aspergers doesn't mean that you can't live your life and be a strong person. So after that one, I decided to tackle Pippi Longstockings. Why? Because it's on my poster, which I actually still have here. I need to put it up on my wall, since rearranging and moving my books into here. It's on here somewhere. I still need to scratch it off, but that's why I read it, because it's on my poster that I need to, well, want to, I should say, slowly work through. And look guys, I didn't like it, and I know that it's a child's book, and I kept that in mind, but I still thought it was just annoying. I thought Pippi was a bit too quirky. It just meant that the plots didn't make sense, and as an adult reading it, I couldn't really figure out the morals either. They kind of just felt like fun stories, which is fine. Like, children's books don't always have to be like around a massive message or something. It was just a matter of, it wasn't for me. I respect that it's a cult favourite for childhood books, but it wasn't my favourite. The first few stories were okay, but by the end of it I was over it, so I think I gave it a 3 stars. Just like an average. It was okay, but it wasn't great. From there, I delved into Dragon Ball. This is volume 1, and when I say this was more lewd than I expected, this was more lewd than I expected. This was hilarious. This was fun. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I never feel like I can give manga 5 stars just because, like, for me, novels offer me something manga can't, but this was hilarious. So just a heads up though, you do see like little male child penis, which, you know, is fine. We don't sexualize children here, at least, and I hope you don't either. But the main thing that had me a bit taken aback was Bulma's acceptance of using her body sexually to get what she wanted. For example, flashing her privates, just so that she could get things based off of greed. And again, I know it's meant to be like satirical satire and it's a bit humour, and I get that, trust me, I get that. It just was something I wasn't expecting, so just be aware of that. Other than that though, I did enjoy it. Alrighty, and just continuing on with the small books, as I was starting to come out of a slump, I was like, right, Pippi Longstockings, it's short manga, let's get a bit bigger. Then we got to Veronica Roth's collection of The End and Other Beginnings, and this is the biggest disappointment in a while. And yes, I'm going to be critical about this because this was actually only published a couple of years ago. It was after her Divergent series and only just before her Chosen Ones book, or was it even just after? Either way, she wrote this quite deeply after quite a few years of her writing career, and I didn't like her writing style at all. And I get that this is an anthology series, so the stories are quite small, but she tried to tackle some really big, deep ideas, each story having some sort of link to death. But because of how short it was done and just how it was done, a lot of them felt cheap, they felt shallow, they felt rushed. The characters a lot of the time had no backbone. My favourite story was the very first one, and that's the only reason this is a 2 stars, not a 1 star, because otherwise, guys, I loved The Chosen Ones and I love the Divergent series, so I was expecting to really fall in love with each small book, but 2 little pages, too much stuff bitten off, fluff. It just wasn't a good time for me, and this is another one that I'm going to be selling. And then we get to this week's reading. So after that one, it really put me in a slump. I was like, oh, I'm really struggling at the moment. I didn't read for a couple of weeks. And then I started filming the video, which hopefully you guys have seen, otherwise I'm about to massively spoil it, where I used TikTok to help me choose 3 books that would help me get out of the slump. And so that's where this book comes in. Aristotle, Dante and the Universe. I got that a little bit wrong, but you know the book. Oh my god, I was about to kiss it. It's not my book. This is a book I need to hunt down and buy myself a copy of, because this had me almost in tears. Honestly, if I wasn't vlogging my reaction, I probably would have cried. I was just holding it in for a bit. The most perfect book ending. Everything that I wanted to happen happened. It made me so happy. But non-spoilery, guys, do yourself a favour and read this. Obviously a 5-star read. I need my own copy. And then we get to Wilder Girls, which was a 4-star read for me. Massive triggers for like body horror, suicide, starvation. If you're triggered by, you know, the COVID-19 disease that's gone around, then watch out. This has similar elements in a more body altering way, which I found disturbing in a good way. I don't know, I was just in the mood for it. Maybe because I read that after such a melancholy love story, I was like, yes, keep giving me these dark vibes. But look, I thought it was great. The first half though was a lot harder for me to get into. I was saying in the vlog, I'm not going to get through this in one sitting cover to cover, it's just not going to be for me. But long story short, I stayed up once I passed the halfway point and finished it. I thought it was a beautiful tale of friendship. I do think the female love subplot was a little bit forced at times, but I still respect what the author did there. Which brings us to my current read. I'm obviously not going to be able to talk too much about it because I am still reading it. I'm only a few pages in, but so far I'm loving it. And honestly, I'll just update you guys more on this in my next reading wrap up. But just so you know, this is my next one. Aphrodite is telling a love story, which is a really intriguing spin on things, but that's that one. Alright, so those are all the books I've read in this entire year so far. Hoping things pick up the pace as I've just read like 2 obviously really good books. Please let me know down below what you have read, what your favourite book is, what you think I should check out to help keep me coming out of this reading slump. I would really appreciate any suggestions you guys have. With that being said, please enjoy all the places you go in your own reading adventures, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.
Spinning the wheel for my beautiful subscribers.
Alright, for those of you who want to see what the prompt is for you. Alrighty, so let's see what your guys' prompt is going to be. It says gifted, and shout out to Rachel Reeds for this prompt. Thank you, girl. Gifted. If it was me, I would probably read The Alchemist, because my boyfriend got me that one. If you have any books that your friends have bought you, that your parents have bought you, maybe if it's not a bought book, maybe it's a gifted read and that someone's gifted you a book prompt suggestion. For example, guys, go read Aristotle and Dante Discover the Universe. That's your prompt. Alright, bye guys. Wait, how do vloggers do this?